American actress Meghan Markle, soon to become a British princess in a modern-day fairy tale.
You've got the beautiful American actress. You've got everybody's favourite prince. It looks like the perfect match.
Meghan and Harry's big day will be the latest show-stopping royal wedding, enjoyed by hundreds of millions around the globe.
Royals do pomp and pageantry like no one else, and they do weddings like no one else.
Every royal wedding is staged under a strict set of rules, drawn up with military precision and steeped in history. In this programme, the secrets of the royal brides are revealed by royal insiders. From the dress designer...
The most exciting part of any royal wedding is seeing the bride in her dress for the first time.
To the wedding singer.
It was a very exciting time, one of the highlights of anyone's life.
The butler. To the cook.
When Harry was quite small, he came into the kitchen looking for treacle tart, saying, "Mummy says it's okay."
Producing Harry and Meghan's fairy tale wedding will require a small army, and nothing but perfection will suffice.
They know the world is going to be watching. Make the slightest slip, everyone is going to know about it.
On the 19th of May 2018, 36-year-old Meghan Markle will marry Prince Henry of Wales, better known as Harry. The wedding of the actress and the prince will mark the culmination of 5 months of intensive planning, and comes less than 2 years after the pair first met at a club in central London.
We believe Harry and Meghan were introduced by a mutual best friend. We know that Meghan was moving in pretty aristocratic circles whenever she came over to London, very well connected and in tune with some of Harry's circle as well. The couple, out of respect for the person that match-made them, has never named the matchmaker, but the couple have, of course, said that they did go on this date. It went very well, and I think within a few hours they were planning on going on holiday together.
A month later, the pair were on safari in Botswana, and the relationship quickly became serious.
I think that both Harry and Meghan, they were both astonished at how quickly their relationship developed and how deeply they felt for one another almost from the get-go.
But this future princess had a very unroyal upbringing. Born in LA in 1981, she was raised mainly by her mother, who took on various jobs to make ends meet. Harry's very different family background meant this relationship would be anything but normal.
I have no more obstacles to get around than asking permission from the girl's father. In the case of royal men, they do have to ask permission of the Queen, of their sovereign, who has been known to say no. In the case of her own sister, she refused her permission to marry the divorcee Peter Townsend way back in the 1950s.
Okay, great.
Like Peter Townsend, Meghan Markle is also divorced, once an insurmountable hurdle to a royal wedding.
When the Queen came to the throne, divorcees were not welcomed at court. Divorce was an absolute taboo subject.
The storybook romance of the king and the commoner.
Edward VIII, of course, abdicated because he insisted upon marrying a divorcee. Times have just changed dramatically in those intervening years.
Today, 3 of the Queen's 4 children are divorced, including Prince Charles, who is married to fellow divorcee Camilla Parker Bowles. And the Queen did not object to Prince Harry's choice of bride either.
As a matter of fact, I could barely let you finish proposing. I was like, can I say yes now?
She didn't even let me finish. I said, can I say yes, can I say yes now? And then there was hugs and I had the ring in my finger and I was like, can I give you the ring? And she goes, oh yes, the ring.
The engagement was sealed with a ring believed to be worth £122,500.
Well, Meghan's ring is incredibly beautiful. It was a newly designed piece and very romantically designed by Harry, who had apparently sourced the main diamond in the ring on a recent visit to Botswana. But what was so lovely about the ring was that on either side of the main ring were 2 beautiful diamonds from Diana's personal collection, so that, you know, she can be remembered in his engagement ring as well.
Diana herself reportedly took a less sentimental approach to selecting her engagement ring.
They bought a box of rings from Garrard, the crown jeweller, for Diana and Charles to look at, and she said later, but this is very Diana, I just picked the biggest one.
Wonderful sapphire and diamond.
When were you given that? Just last night?
No, Sunday.
For Meghan, like all royal brides, secrecy is key when it comes to arranging a royal wedding. The planning is driven from Buckingham Palace by the Lord Chamberlain, a position created 6 centuries ago.
Lord Chamberlain is the head of the royal household. In fact, he's the overall boss who comes directly and is directly answerable to the Queen. His department is responsible for all sorts of ceremonial occasions, for organising weddings. As the Prince of Wales, Harry's father, and the Queen are pricking up the bill, then they've got all the sort of organisational skills backing them up.
The choice of wedding venue is crucial for any royal couple.
The most common venue is Westminster Abbey. It was where the Queen was married, it was where Prince William was married, it's where Diana's at.
Westminster Abbey has been hosting royal weddings since 1100. It seats 2,000 guests and is just a handy half a mile from Buckingham Palace. But there are alternatives. When Charles and Diana wanted even more guests and a longer procession, they chose a venue that hadn't hosted a royal wedding for nearly 500 years. St. Paul's Cathedral.
Prince Charles decided when he married Diana to use St. Paul's Cathedral, and there was a lot of argument about whether that was going to be too expensive in order to secure the route with soldiers. And he particularly wanted to use St. Paul's so that more people would be able to come into the capital and see the wedding for themselves, or see part of the procession.
3,500 guests watched Charles and Diana's wedding inside St. Paul's. 600,000 lined the 2-mile route to Buckingham Palace. Harry and Meghan have decided on a different venue. St. George's Chapel in Windsor. It has seen royal christenings, weddings and funerals, including the christening of Harry himself and the burial of the Queen Mother. The Reverend Canon John Ovenden was based at St. George's as the Queen's chaplain.
I think Harry and Meghan wanted something a little more intimate. And they wanted, to cram everybody in. And that's rather nice, to be able to do that. And it's a homely place. It's a homely environment because, the Queen considers that to be, her home. She loves Windsor.
I think from the outset they both wanted a smaller, more intimate family wedding, and St George's does have precedents for that. Harry's uncle, Prince Edward, married Sophie Rhys-Jones at St George's Chapel, and also his other cousin Peter Phillips, who married Autumn Kelly. And if you look at all of those family weddings, they really do feel like family weddings.
Harry and Meghan will have 600 guests at their wedding ceremony at St George's. Not many for a senior royal.
Everybody wants to be invited, and those that aren't will see it as a personal and a social slight.
When Prince William announced his engagement, they were given a list, as long as your arm, of people that had to be invited to a royal wedding. Dignitaries, ambassadors, heads of state, and on and on and on. And William took one look at this and said, well, if we invite all of these people, there's going to be no room for my friends. What do we do? He then went to the Queen, and the Queen said, what you do is you put that list in the bin, you invite all your friends, and if you've got space after that...
There is a bit of potential for controversy because both are close, well, Harry particularly is very close to Michelle and Barack Obama, and I'm told had wanted to invite them to his wedding. But, of course, that could have put a possible diplomatic storm on the map with... But I think you're going to see quite a smattering of stardust because, of course, Meghan is a well-known actress and she's got a lot of well-known friends. And it's going to be that wonderful combination of royalty and celebrity, so it's quite an irresistible mix.
The invites themselves are produced by royal printers Barnard and Westwood. They use an antique die stamping machine with real gold for the Prince of Wales feathers and the edges. Prince Charles's former butler, Grant Harold, still has his invite to the 2005 wedding of his boss, to Camilla Parker Bowles.
This is the actual invitation, still in pristine condition, all handwritten at the front. The Lord Chamberlain sends out the invitations on behalf, well, he's commanded by the Queen. says he's commanded, because if you get an invitation from another member of the royal family, it'll be a case of request your pleasure. The Queen would send a command. Of course, today, if you don't turn up, they're not going to suddenly have you beheaded or take you off to one of the Tower of London or something.
When the wedding day finally dawns, the pressure will be on. Coming up, we reveal a battle against time for the royal wedding team. And a battle against nerves, one royal bride.
She hid under the duvet and absolutely refused to come out. She was so frightened.
At 12 noon on the 19th of May, St George's Chapel, Windsor will host the wedding of Prince Harry and American actress Meghan Markle. But as with all royal weddings, the day's arrangements will begin many hours earlier. In 1981, Diana's dressmaker, Elizabeth Emanuel, arrived at Clarence House at 8 a.m. to meet the bride.
Well, Diana didn't appear to be nervous at all, actually. Dave and I were nervous. Well, I was nervous. The Queen Mother was there, I remember, and we were dashing around, probably making a lot of noise, thumping on the floor. So she gave us a few cross looks every so often. So it was just getting a bride ready for the big day, as we would with any other bride, really. Except we were in Clarence House and the Queen Mother was there, you know. We could hear the crowds outside, so the atmosphere was very different, certainly.
4 years later, his new bride was anything but.
Camilla spent the night before her wedding at Clarence House. That morning of her wedding, she hid under the duvet and absolutely refused to come out. She was so frightened. She had to be coaxed out of bed. Her sister was there, her daughter was there, her dresser was there. And it was only when her sister said, right, I'm going to put your clothes on and I'm going to go and do this for you, that she got out of bed. She was terrified, and quite rightly. Nobody knew what kind of reception she was going to get.
To head off criticism, the two divorcees chose to marry in a civil ceremony at Windsor's Guildhall. 20,000 well-wishers gathered to cheer Camilla's arrival. A crowd at least 5 times that size is expected for the wedding of Meghan and Harry. And according to royal wedding superfan Anita Atkinson, they should arrive early.
The 2011 wedding of William and Kate. I was on the pavement outside of Westminster Abbey for 4 days, 3 nights, in my Union Jack tent, and it was incredible.
And Anita knows the secret of how to get the best view at a royal wedding, and keep it.
For anyone who wants to go to Harry and Meghan's, you've really got to get there early, and you have to manage your spot. You've got to guard it with your life, because you can guarantee that at the last minute you'll get someone coming in and saying, oh, can the bairn get... Well, they don't say bairn down in London, but can my little boy just get in there? No, because my space. My space. I've been here for 20 hours. Oh, here, can my granny get in the wheelchair? No, that's my space. You've got to guard it with your life.
The arrival times of the invited guests are governed by strict protocol and planned to the second.
One of the things about the royal family, everything runs to time. Everything runs to clockwork. Nobody is late. Everybody runs to the minute.
At the wedding of Prince William and Catherine, general guests, including famous friends, were instructed to arrive by 9:45 a.m. 9:50 saw the arrival of senior politicians, opposition followed by the Prime Minister. At 10:15 came the first royals, the groom himself with best man Harry. The remaining royals follow in strict order of importance, culminating in heir to the throne Charles at 10:42 and the Queen at 10:45. Precisely 6 minutes later, Kate Middleton left the nearby Goring Hotel, and the waiting
Greek room, and William was no different. The TV screens in the Abbey were actually turned off just before Kate left the hotel, because she didn't want him seeing what she was wearing until she was walking up the aisle.
The most exciting part of any royal wedding is seeing the bride in her dress for the first time, because the dress has been kept such a secret that when you see it, Well, that's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Now, it has just been confirmed that it is Sarah Burton and Alexander McQueen who designed this dress.
Royal bridal dresses have been setting trends since the wedding of Queen Victoria. At a time when most brides wore bright colours, her daring choice of ivory kick-started the British tradition of white weddings. It was a direct influence on Diana's dress designer, Elizabeth Emanuel.
So this is one of the trunks. There's 3 of them.
Elizabeth still keeps a treasure trove of mementos from the dress of the century.
Because I'm a bit of a hoarder, any scraps of fabric, sequins, I would put into the trunks because we were very worried about press finding out, you know, what colour the dress was and everything.
Unlike with Meghan or Kate, Diana's dress designers Elizabeth and husband David were revealed to the press before the wedding, kick-starting a media stampede.
We were totally unprepared because we had press phoning us up and people outside, people going through our bins, cameramen rented premises across the road to us and they had their long-range camera lenses and everything changed from the minute it was announced.
The Emanuels hoisted in a safe to store the dress and employed security guards to mind it. And that was just the beginning.
There were various things that we did to protect the secret. One of it was to put odd-coloured threads and fabrics in our rubbish because we knew people were going through the bins. We bought giant shutters so we could pull them down so people couldn't look through our windows. And then we made the spare dress just in case, you know, in case they discovered the secret. But we just didn't talk to the press, even though they tried very hard and would say things like, oh, please give us some details because I'll get a sack if I don't come back with something. And, you know, I'm trying to keep my children going through school and it was just awful.
But the spare was never needed. The original remained unseen until the wedding day.
You know, I don't think anyone will forget the impact that Diana's dress had. It was probably the most iconic dress in royal history, and I think that was because it was so elaborate. I mean, the train itself was 25 feet long.
My favourite bit of all the footage, I think, is her coming out of the coach, and then her train is released, and she turns around, and then the wind catches her veil, and it's the most dramatic and exciting moment. Always reminded me of a beautiful transformation as well, from you're a young girl into a princess, you know, and we thought at that time Queen of England at one time.
The right wedding dress has the power to transform a bride's public perception, as Camilla Parker Bowles was also to discover. Prior to her 2005 wedding, Camilla had a less than glamorous image.
We'd seen some pretty terrible photographs of Camilla over the years because they were all snatched by paparazzi, so she was looking thunderous or she was in her old gardening clothes. And suddenly there she was on that lovely spring day in the most beautiful clothes with a glorious hat and a beaming smile, and she scrubbed up really well. She looked fantastic. It was the beginning of a complete change in her fortunes because people could hear her voice for the first time. They met her. They discovered that she was a lovely, warm, friendly, funny woman.
Meghan Markle's choice of dress is the subject of intense press speculation.
We know that when she does do glamour and formal wear, she does it very, very well. And I think if you look at those official engagement portraits, and she spared no expense on that dress, and there are reports that her wedding dress is costing upwards of £400,000. I think you expect fairy tale, I think something dramatic, something with impact. I suspect that she will go for white or off-white, but I'm told that she would like to incorporate a hint of colour, possibly in the sash of her dress, that will be picked up by her bridesmaids. And I'm told sleeves will feature in her dress. And I think, again, that's probably a nod to the formality of the day. You know, this is a royal wedding. You don't see royal brides in strapless dresses.
Prince Harry is expected to wear ceremonial military uniform, just like his father, who wore Naval Commander full dress, and his brother, who chose the bright red tunic of the Irish Guards. Russell Cashket's company holds a royal warrant to produce military coats and uniforms and had the painstaking job of making Prince William's striking red outfit.
The detail is really labour-intensive, and it's done by quite a few different people. So, this is just a collar, the same as Prince William's, and there's 3 different types of gold on here. This is a diamond-cut gold. It reflects like diamond. If I pull it, can you see?
His uniform in the strictest secrecy.
You can't talk about it. And also for the staff, trying to make garments for them not to know that it was for the royal wedding was quite hard because it couldn't be leaked. 2 people knew that it was Prince William's garments going through. As far as the staff were concerned, it was an officer going into the Irish Guards. There was no name on the garment going through. The earliest they would have known about it would have been on the Friday morning, after he'd walked out in his scarlet tunic, because they would have realised who made the scarlet tunic. And they would have all been sitting going, I made that.
Adding a personal touch to the church is the job of the florist. Meghan and Harry have selected Philippa Craddock, who promises to fill St George's Chapel with locally sourced, bee-friendly blooms. This follows the natural look of Will and Kate's wedding, created by Shane Connolly. Shane brought the countryside into Westminster Abbey, trees and all.
I suppose the thing that was the overriding thought through that wedding was that everything was thoughtful. That was the thing that the Duchess felt was really important to her. The sourcing, that it was English, that it was seasonal. So the idea of the trees were one of the first directions that we went in, and they loved the idea.
Shane had planned an avenue of cherry trees in blossom, but then the British weather intervened.
The heat leading up to the wedding was a huge surprise, and it got hotter and hotter, and my suppliers said, there's no blossom left. The week before the wedding, I had to phone the bride to say, there's no blossom, and the only thing we can do is have green trees. You know, I've got brides who have hyperventilated over, you know, the shade of a rose being pinker than they thought. And here was a girl who was completely in tune with nature.
The aisle was lined with native hornbeam trees, and at their base, growing flowers dug up from the grounds of Windsor Castle.
The main thing that we used were lily of the valley. Sadly, these aren't the beautiful carpets from Windsor Great Park, but it is a beautiful flower. And of course, it's got this extraordinary scent. And in the language of flowers, they say, you have made my life complete, or the return of happiness. So they're very auspicious, which really also was quite important. And I think it must be lovely for a bride to walk down the aisle feeling that she was not in a grand abbey, but actually in a part of England, in a rural part of England that was just been brought inside for the day.
Coming up, the vows of a modern princess.
I'm absolutely convinced that Meghan will not say she will obey Harry.
So this is Prince Charles's.
The butler reveals his secret stash of royal wedding cake. Beds in the world safe.
Meghan and Harry are going to be in an open carriage, effectively, which makes them very, very vulnerable.
Royal weddings have become a global media phenomenon. 750 million people watched Charles and Diana marry in 1981. By 2011, viewing figures for William and Catherine were said to have reached 2 billion. Yet at the heart of this huge media event is a traditional British wedding service. Harry and Meghan will have the same freedom as any other couple to choose entrance music, readings and vows, all agreed with the churchmen in charge.
I think the Archbishop of Canterbury is going to marry them, but the Dean of Windsor, the Right Reverend David Connor, will, take a big part, and the canons of St George's will be there, and they will have sat down with a couple and worked through, what it is they want. And I think there'll be 1 or 2 surprises.
Wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife, to live together? Wilt thou obey him and serve him, love, honour and keep him?
And Elizabeth Ellis Louise.
Royal brides have traditionally vowed to love, honour and obey their husbands.
I, Sarah Margaret.
I, Sarah Margaret.
Charles Philip Arthur George. Wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife?
Yet in 1981, Princess Diana broke with 4 centuries of tradition.
The vows The royal brides are purely a personal choice. Diana broke with tradition by saying love, honour and keep.
I, Diana Frances.
Hi, Diana Frances.
Fergie kept the love, honour, obey.
Take the Andrew Albert Christian Edward.
But then stressed afterwards that she wasn't the sort of girl that would obey, but she wanted to keep the wedding ceremony as it was.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
Kate Middleton, when she married Prince William, went back to Diana's idea of love, honour and keep, and I'm absolutely convinced that Meghan will not say she will obey Harry.
Wilt thou love him, comfort him, honour and keep him, in sickness and in health?
I will.
One tradition Meghan is likely to follow is with the choice of wedding ring.
And she who shall wear it may remain faithful to each other.
At royal weddings, only the bride is given a ring,
Together in love until their
and it is usually forged from ultra-rare Welsh gold.
As far as the wedding band is concerned, I would very much expect that Meghan will be given a wedding band made of Welsh gold, because that's traditional for Welsh gold by the people of Wales, and she gives pieces of that gold to the members of her family who are marrying out. Kate wears a band of Welsh gold, and I'm sure Meghan will have the same privilege as well. It's a family tradition.
With the ring,
I thee wed.
I thee wed.
With my body,
With my body,
I thee honour.
I thee honour.
The signing of the register is the only part of the royal wedding conducted away from the cameras. It's a lull in proceedings filled with music and sometimes a show-stopping singer. Musical legend Dame Kiri Takanawa received the call-up for Charles and Diana's wedding.
It's quite strange watching, I must say. 35 years ago, my God. Not bad singing, though, I must say.
For Dame Kiri, the invitation to perform came out of the blue.
I'd set the date aside, to watch it all day. We were going to sit in front of the television and everything. And then suddenly I get a call saying, you can't tell anybody, but Charlie's asked you to sing at his wedding. And, of course, I thought, Charlie who? Anyway, it was Prince Charles. And not for several months was I able to mention it. So it was really quite... Can you imagine a secret like that? It was a very exciting time. I mean, I think one of the highlights of anyone's life, really.
But behind the scenes at St. Paul's, it wasn't all glamour.
The big thing that everyone says to you, please, there are no toilets down there, so you've just got to go to the toilet when you can. Then, of course, the worry about getting to the church in time and just going through there and hoping that I was on time and didn't fall over before I went in the church, got to the right place and stayed there.
Dame Kiri's performance was heard by an estimated 750 million people around the world.
It was just a one-off, magical cameo, something for my life. And if you look at it, if you look at the footage, there it is in history. It was a magic time in England, just a magic time.
The royal couple usually emerge from their wedding with gifts from the Queen. New titles.
When Meghan Markle marries Prince Harry, or to be exact, Prince Henry of Wales, she will become Princess Henry of Wales. So we don't call her Princess Meghan, it'll be Princess Henry of Wales. However, to add to the confusion, this might only be for a few moments, because possibly on the day, the Queen will give them an official new title. So it might be, for example, the Duke and Duchess of Clarence, or the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Who knows, we'll find out. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky time to keep up with what the actual title is.
Harry and Meghan will follow tradition with an open-topped, horse-drawn carriage drive. Their procession through Windsor town centre will present a huge challenge to security staff like Ken Wharf, former protection officer to Princess Diana.
Well, when Meghan and Harry leave the gates here at Windsor Castle, from the total safety of Windsor Castle, you're really stepping into the unknown here. Because there are always those uncertainties that one might have to prepare for. I mean, we have lots of buildings here that need to be searched, need to be secure for that occasion, because let's not forget, Meghan and Harry are going to be in an open carriage, effectively, which makes them very, very vulnerable.
Up to £20 million was spent on security surrounding Prince William's marriage to Kate Middleton. much went on the thousands of uniformed police lining the route. But royal weddings also require hidden security officers, deployed closer to the couple's horse-drawn carriage.
When Harry and Meghan leave Windsor Castle here in an open carriage, one of the footmen on that carriage will be an armed protection officer from Scotland Yard. There's an additional security there for the couple as they process through the streets of Windsor. And there are people positioned on rooftops, armed police officers. And there are individuals in plain clothes amongst the crowd looking for that individual that might be tempted to do something stupid.
Meghan and Harry's wedding has prompted the largest security operation in the history of Thames Valley Police. A so-called ring of steel will include hostile vehicle barriers erected along the procession route and at key entrances to the town. Commercial vehicles will be searched, and there will be bag checks for the crowd.
I'm pretty confident, based on my experience of working with Scotland Yard and these major occasions, that this will be a happy day where security will be as near as 100% as you're going to get it.
But for VIP guests, one royal wedding hazard is inescapable.
When you came out of the church, it's nothing but horse poo everywhere. It was just everywhere. And you're sort of these grand ladies trying to step through all of that. It was very, very funny. Right in front, you know, down where the steps were. Oh, covered in horse poo. And the smell.
After the procession, 600 guests will join Harry and Meghan inside Windsor Castle at St George's Hall. Here they will find a vast dining table set for a 3-course dinner, all expertly laid by staff like former royal butler Grant Harold.
So here what I've done is I've put down a main coin first, and again you use what I call my golden rule inch rule, which is where you put the thumb at the edge of the table from the knuckle to the tip, so that's about 1 inch, and then I'm going to build the cutlery around that.
The whole table laying process takes 2 days and is rounded off by napkins given a suitably royal fold.
I do the fleur-de-lis of Prince of Wales feathers. Here's the bit. We're going to flip it over, tuck it in at the back, and bring the sides down.
Maintaining standards is the job of the butlers and their boss.
Even on some occasions, it is known that the Queen will even go round and check the table. She'll go round for a final inspection. With state banquets, she will go round and make sure that everything is how it should be. So she's quite strict about that kind of thing. She's got a very good eye for the attention to detail, and there's microphones in the flowers for when people do speeches. So that's where the actual microphones are, and she always makes sure that you can't see them. So she's been doing it for years. She's a fantastic hostess. She knows exactly what to look for, and she will notice if anything's not in place, if something's not been done right, she will pick up on it.
The wedding breakfast itself is prepared by royal chefs to a menu drawn up by the couple. Few people have a better insight into what might be served up for Harry and Meghan than Carolyn Robb. She was personal chef to Charles and Diana as Harry and William were growing up.
I think a lot of people assume that the royal family eat all their meals off gold plates. Food that we cooked a lot was roast chicken, roast beef, shepherd's pie, sausages and mash, all those wonderful traditional English dishes. Can't see him putting those on his wedding menu, but who knows? I'm sure that together he and Meghan will come up with something truly delicious.
The wedding menu of Catherine and William showed a preference for simple, traditionally British cooking.
Wedding breakfast for William and Kate's wedding looked absolutely delicious. Fish and seafood starter, lamb for a main course, ice cream, trifle and chocolate parfait for dessert. But what makes it very special is the sourcing of the ingredients. The lamb that came from Scotland, crab from Lyme Regis, Hebridean langoustines. I see there's Berkshire honey ice cream, so that probably came from a beekeeper very close to where Kate lived and grew up. So a very special menu.
Harry and Meghan's menu has yet to be revealed, but Carolyn suspects one of Harry's childhood favourites could feature.
When Harry was quite small, he really loved treacle tart, and on one occasion he came into the kitchen quite early in the day looking for treacle tart. So I sent him off to check with Princess Diana if that was okay, and he came scampering back quite quickly with a little note that she'd written saying, "Mummy says it's okay."
Coming up, we learn which royal makes the most entertaining wedding speeches.
The most memorable
Notes to his guests, one royal sold his wedding photos to Hello magazine.
I think it went down like a lead balloon with many members of the royal family.
On the 19th of May, Windsor Castle will host the new royal bride and groom's wedding banquet. For many, the highlight will be a best man's speech, expected to be delivered by Prince William. But according to royal insiders, he'll struggle to outshine his own best man.
The most memorable speaker, I think, at royal weddings that I'm aware of has been Prince Harry. He apparently had the whole room in absolute stitches.
Now, he wrote that speech while he was in the Arctic, walking with the Wounded. Anyway, came back, pushed it on paper, ran it past Chelsea, his girlfriend at the time, who said it was wonderful, but there was one reference in there that she felt was a little too far, which was to Kate's killer legs. And she just said to Harry, I think you better drop that, which he did. But apparently his speech was very, very touching. He referred to William throughout as the dude and sort of said if he could end up as happy as his brother, then he'd be a happy man too. So it was very sentimental and very, very funny speech, all delivered while he was wearing a fez, apparently.
Every wedding guest will receive a memento, a piece of wedding cake packaged in a commemorative box.
So this is Prince Charles's Dutch Commonwealth one, and then inside there we've actually got the cake still as it was all those years ago. And then here we've got a more recent one. So this is Prince William and Catherine Middleton. This one you can tell has probably never even been opened before. We've actually got the cake again. I've just left them exactly as they were. And I have resisted ever going and having a nibble on them.
Harry and Meghan look set to ditch this traditional style wedding cake. Instead, they've asked the fashionable Violet Bakery in East London to produce a lemon and elderflower sponge covered with flowers. They'll also be refusing gifts, like William and Kate before them.
Kate and William did it differently. They decided they didn't want any gifts, physical gifts. They wanted their friends to donate money to charity, and I'm sure that's what Meghan and Harry will do.
After the main reception is over, an exclusive party of 200 guests will head half a mile south to the Windsor's private hideaway, Frogmore House. 10 years ago, Frogmore was the venue for the wedding reception of Harry's cousin Peter Phillips and his wife, Autumn Kelly. They provoked a scandal when, unbeknownst to most of the guests, they sold photos of the private bash to Hello magazine for £500,000.
Generally, what happens in the private do's stays in the private do's. There are no cameras there, or none of our cameras are there. So what happens?
Also, it's a wedding ceremony, which is where there's supposed to be a private situation, the most private the are ever in, inside their own home, for goodness sake. And they thought this was just photographers at a wedding and happily posed and grinned away. And then were quite amazed in a couple of weeks afterwards to see 59 pages of a Hello supplement dedicated entirely to things that they thought were private family shots.
I think it went down like a lead balloon with many members of the royal family. I don't expect that to happen with Harry and Meghan.
Harry and Meghan's evening reception looks set to follow the model of William and Kate's, a private star-studded party that continued until fireworks at 3 a.m.
There'll be a lead up for Harry's gang and Meghan's friends, and that could well go on well into the night.
They're mates with Ed Sheeran, they're mates with Ellie Goulding, they're mates with Joss Stone. Elton John's got his place round the corner. I think he's cleared his diary. Stormzy could well be there, but at this stage we just don't know.
Given Harry's reputation as a bit of a party prince, I'm hearing that, you know, what is being planned is going to be a pretty big party.
A royal wedding is not just an unforgettable occasion for the nation. It is also a deeply personal event for the royal bride and groom.
One of the loveliest stories of the royal wedding was that once William and Kate had left their wedding breakfast and they turned on the royal wedding, they'd recorded it and they watched the playback, and that apparently was one of the real highlights of their day. And I think in that respect, they're just like everyone else.
Key thing, obviously, is to love the person you're marrying. Charles and Diana hardly knew each other when they got married. She was still calling him Sir. That has not happened with her boys.
Harry and Meghan, as long as they carry on the way they are now, they will be highly successful. Don't try and change just because you're a married couple. Be yourselves and be the way you are now, and you'll succeed.
about.
On the 19th of May 2018, 36-year-old Meghan Markle will marry Prince Henry of Wales, better known as Harry. The wedding of the actress and the prince will mark the culmination of 5 months of intensive planning and comes less than 2 years after the pair first met at a club in central London.
We believe Harry and Meghan were introduced by a mutual best friend. We know that Meghan was moving in pretty aristocratic circles whenever she came over to London, very well connected and in tune with some of Harry's circle as well. The couple, out of respect for the person that match-made them, has never named the matchmaker, but the couple have, of course, said that they did go on this date. It went very well, and I think within a few hours they were planning on going on holiday together.
A month later, the pair were on safari in Botswana, and the relationship quickly became serious.
I think that both Harry and Meghan, they were both astonished at how quickly their relationship developed and how deeply they felt for one another almost from the get-go.
But this future princess had a very unroyal upbringing. Born in LA in 1981, she was raised mainly by her mother, who took on various jobs to make ends meet. Harry's very different family background meant this relationship would be anything but normal.
Have no more obstacles to get around than asking permission from the girl's father.